All right, we're going to get into this month's question of the week. And what this segment is designed to do is, as I get questions throughout the weeks of the previous month, I kind of highlight ones that come in often, but also the ones that come in and they're asked in a very certain way. Most commonly, they're asked in a way as if somebody Googled, "What are the best questions I should ask my property manager?" Those are. I mean, it's if you know nothing else, right? It's a fine place to start, but. Here, I want to educate you on how to ask the question to generate the highest quality answer out of the person that you are evaluating to manage what most people hold as their highest valuable asset. So I think it's extremely important. People have lost thousands and thousands of dollars at choosing the wrong property manager because they get excited about an 8% management fee versus a 9% management fee. And that is an absolute terrible way to evaluate. In fact, I just had a conversation yesterday with an owner, and that's all he was interested in. No matter how much I tried to quickly, because it was obvious that a long conversation is not something this individual was interested in. It was just interested, what's your fee, and wanted to get off the phone. And I'm like, you're making a terrible mistake. That's not how you should evaluate your property manager. Not that it's not something that you should consider. Obviously, the fee structure is important, but that should be, like, in my opinion, 4 or 5 if I'm putting it in an order of importance when I'm evaluating a property management company. So here we go. The question I wanted to go over today is also as a result because we have a lot of new investors that are being driven to the Midwest here in Indianapolis and surrounding suburbs. Is what are the best areas of Indianapolis to invest in right now? And this is a very open question, and we have lots of videos that kind of highlight areas to invest in. And also, if you aren't already tied into our monthly market reports, I highly encourage you to go in there and check those out. If you are an active investor, I'd be looking at those every single month. We have previous data over a long time period that tracks the rental growth in all of these areas, including Indianapolis and all the surrounding suburbs that we track. But yeah, I would definitely stay clued into that information. But very important question. Now, where I want to start with this is I always want to, when I'm considering a potential investment property, the first thing I use these days is how good is the school system? And I use that not because I'm evaluating cash flow on the front end, but I'm evaluating the entire potential ROI on this investment vehicle. And that's going to be the appreciation and, of course, the tax benefits. And a good school system is going to result in the highest quality tenants in the least amount of time, which a good quality tenant will typically stay multiple years. But even more importantly, very low turnover costs because they take care of the property. What do you think? Let me zip it for a second. What's your opinion on what areas you should focus on when you're looking for an investment property here in Indianapolis?
I think it depends on if you're looking for cash flow or appreciation. It's kind of not that they have to be mutually exclusive, but they tend to be a little bit of a different strategy. I think most of our investors, and Chris, you tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think most of our investors are not kind of more institutional investors. They're a little bit more, I don't know if mom and pop is the right word, but have 1 to kind of 5 to maybe 10 rental units. And so I think typically maybe higher net worth individuals looking to add some real estate to their portfolio for a long-term strategy. So tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that's most of our viewers, most of our investors have that mindset versus I need to cash flow. I need to make $200, $300, $400, $500 or $10,000 a month on these rental units. So I guess let me ask you.
Yeah,
Do you think
I would say easily it's a mix. If I'm going to throw a number on it right now, it's a 50-50 mix of people who have heard of the potential, the value of investing in real estate, whether it's a protection against inflation or otherwise. And then also it's investors that currently invest in many other areas of the country, and now they're hearing on all the Zillows and all the news that Indianapolis is a stellar market,
Yep.
affordable market to invest in. So I'd say it's 50-50 really.
Okay. Well, then I have two answers. So if I was a cash flow investor, I would look at multifamily. I would look at duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, small apartment complexes, things that are smaller, what I call boutique multifamily. Because once you get to kind of like 50 and above, those are going to be more institutional buyers that are going to beat you out. They're going to have better systems. You're just not going to be able to compete with them. So anywhere from 2 to 20 units is probably where I would look in terms of multifamily. In terms of single family, you're going to probably want to look at some of the outskirt areas that we have identified. Anderson, for example, is a great area for looking at potential cash flows. Anderson, Pendleton, kind of the stuff a little bit more on the outskirts, and or look into doing a flip. The Burr method is really, really popular, has been really popular. Doing something like that is definitely a strategy for cash flow type investors. If I'm a long-term horizon and I'm not necessarily concerned about the monthly cash flow, obviously I don't want to lose money, but even I fall in that category. I'm more of a long-term. I don't need the cash flow from the rental to supplement my current income. For me, it's a long-term strategy. I'm trying to build the appreciation, so that later I can cash in and benefit from that investment. So in those cases, I would say look for the safer areas, the ones with better tenants, like you were saying, better schools, better tenants, less vacancy, less theft, less evictions, less delinquencies, all of that kind of stuff to keep those costs down, instead of going for more of like the inner Indianapolis, looking for the highest ROI on paper.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So a couple additional notes here. Yes. So if I'm looking for a potential investment, the potential that you're going to find in the inner city, you're going to potentially find lower cost investment opportunities. The problem with that as an out of state investor is you don't know what street to invest on. Right. So you're just relying on whatever you can find on the internet. My first suggestion there is you absolutely should connect with a realtor that has experience in scouting good investment opportunities within the inner city. And if you're not already connected with one, reach out. I'd be happy to connect you with one. I've worked with many, many, many. So be happy to connect you with one that can evaluate street by street good potential investment opportunities, number one. And then number two, the outer suburbs, again, your quality of tenant is such a valuable asset over the long term to increase your overall ROI. So yes, these good school systems, so Noblesville, Greenwood, those are probably some of your lower cost investment areas. Still sort of check into the rental market updates to see if that's still true this month. And then, of course, Avon, Brownsburg, Plainfield, that are all along the west side. These are great suburban areas, great school systems with a lot of upside potential, close to Eagle Creek Park there on the west side, which is a really sought after attraction area. On the north side, we're talking about Whitestown, which has got a lot of development going on right now. It's a perfect corridor to Lebanon. And then you've got Fishers, of course, in Carmel, which due to the ordinances, if you're not familiar with those, check back in an earlier podcast where we elaborate on what's going on in Carmel and Fishers to see if those are even still potential investment areas for real estate. But again, back to the south side, you've got Greenwood, Southport, even as far down as Franklin. There's a lot of
New Whiteland, Franklin.
Yeah, New
All
Whiteland,
those
exactly.
are great areas. And you forgot about the west side, the entire west side, Avon, Brownsburg.
That's what I said.
Plainfield.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I hit it. I hit the entire west side, Eagle Creek Park. Yeah, all that. So yeah, these are all areas that I'd be looking at. So, but certainly, and I would still rely on a realtor to help navigate those areas as well. But that's certainly where I'd be looking if I was out of state. But if you want something potentially more affordable, you're looking at Anderson. maybe out in Pendleton. These are all on the east side, and then inner city. You can find some more affordable areas, but again, I'd be careful at where I'm investing there. I mean, for the most part, it's fine, but I would have a trusted realtor who's experienced in this. And again, reach out. I'll be happy to connect you with one that can navigate through that. All right, and the last thing I want to talk about on this is because we have a lot more kind of short-term rental is kind of rearing its head again as becoming the popular thing. It kind of died out there for a while. But now it's back. Short-term rental is a huge discussion. Mike, if I'm interested in picking up a short-term rental, where am I looking? You have a couple of short-term rentals yourself. Where are you looking to pick up to maximize your ROI?
I don't have one area, Chris, that I would say is sort of the sleeper. What I will say is it's shocking how many different areas work and for how many different reasons. So there's no doubt that short-term rentals for the most part are going to be your highest cash flow situation. But that does come with, for example, we manage both long-term and short-term rentals. But as you know, managing short-term rentals is a whole different game. It is so much more work, and so we have to charge more for that. So there's definite costs that you have to consider that you're going to have increased costs along with the increased income, right? But net, it usually does net out to be a much better cash flow investment for short-term versus long-term, even after all that. So again, I can't say there's one area. I mean, sometimes when we onboard a short-term rental, I'm like, man, I don't know if this one's going to work, and then it does. I mean, we talked about this one before, where there was one out in Avon. It was
Thank you. Yeah, give me a couple areas. Yeah,
kind of out in the middle of nowhere in Avon. I was like, I don't know who's staying here for what, but it worked, and it was a 2-bedroom. I was so concerned about that, and it worked. It worked. Downtown is always a highly desirable area, but you got to be careful there. We've managed a couple in Fountain Square, where it just doesn't make sense. There's the price point for the real estate, and then what you can get on a per night basis. There's just a lot of competition there.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's almost a race to the bottom in terms of the nightly rate, and so it does not make sense. Ultimately, both of our investors ended up selling because it just didn't make sense for them. So I would say avoid Fountain Square. Even though Fountain Square is kind of like all the hotness for, especially for out-of-state people. They're like, oh, I want Fountain Square. No, it's done, especially for short-term rentals. Avoid that area. You got to get a little bit more creative.
I talked to 2 investors this last week, and they were both interested in short-term rental. In both areas, their realtor was driving them towards Fountain Square and Broad Ripple. And that's so funny that you just said that, because it shows that we are aligned in that thinking that it's saturated. It's so saturated that it sounds good, right? It sounds, yes, those are great areas where you're going to get a lot of out-of-town visitors. Because there's a lot of traffic in there. But yeah, it's too saturated. That's not where I'd be looking right now. It's not going to turn out the way.
It's expensive down there too, man. It's really expensive, and we don't manage one there right now because, like I said, it has been unsuccessful. I mean, it's not that much, like $100 to $250 a night, which is just not enough.
Even in the downtown area where we've managed a few, the nightly rate, it really has to be, there has to be something special about the Airbnb, I think, to make it appeal to more guests and increase your overall nightly rate. But yeah, even those aren't as successful as you would think when you're surrounded by all of the conveniences in the attractions that are in the downtown area.
You got to be smart when you're buying it, and you got to be realistic about your nightly rate. So I think a lot of people come in and don't educate themselves fully, and you really do need to partner with somebody who knows what they're doing and can give you a realistic expectation of occupancy rate, daily rate, to make sure that it does make sense.
I agree. So I mean, that being said, I mean, even for short-term rental, I think that we would probably agree that you are probably going to find a little bit more success even in your suburban areas. At least that's, I think, what we found. Even, do we still manage that one in Greenwood that we brought on? It was there's a warehouse right behind it. Do we?
Yeah, it's not in Greenwood, it's in Indy, but it's kind of just, again, it's one of those ones where it's like, who's staying there? And it does so well.
Are you kidding me?
Southside, it does so well. I would say the Southside is actually probably underrepresented in terms of short-term rentals. I mean, all this being said, I think we're being a little bit negative, but all this being said, I mean, I personally own 5. I'm looking for another one right now, so I'm pro STR. but you got to just know what you're doing and don't buy in Fountain Square.
Yeah, don't buy Town Square. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I like what you said there, though. So if you're looking for the secret on where to potentially pick up a short-term or midterm rental, probably on the south side of Indy, because I think, like you just said, it's underrepresented right now. So there you go. We just let the secret out of the bag. So
That's out of the bag.
yeah, there it is. All right, I think that wraps up our question of the week.